You guys are what, the co-founders of Real 80s CCM?
Yeah, you could call us that.
Who we are.
It was Ray and me sitting around saying, what are we going to do? What's a good YouTube channel? And
Okay, well, so let's start there. You guys both run together a Facebook group called Real 80s CCM. Scott and I actually attend the same church. So years ago, you had invited me to join this group, and I really enjoyed it. It's just growing exponentially the last couple of years. Tell us a little bit about what is the group, first of all. What is Real 80s CCM?
well,
It was your idea, admittedly.
okay. It's too long ago. It's years ago if I remember how the whole thing went. But, I mean, yeah, so Ray and I were talking about, what stuff that we could do online. And really it started with the YouTube channel because, it would be neat if we had a YouTube channel with some music on it because this music isn't out there. Nobody has posted the 77s or the old Larry Norman or the Resurrection Band. Like, there's little bits here and there, but complete collections, all of it. And, I had like 100 or 200 records sitting there that I don't play my records a whole lot, but I hooked it up to the computer. I still have my old turntable that I bought in 1981 probably. Plugged it all in, got it going on the computer, started ripping this MP3s with Audacity and everything, like just, real basic stuff once you get it plugged in. Once you know what you're doing, it's all there. So all of a sudden we got like 100 records on downloaded, and then, we're going to put them up on the internet to share with the rest of the world because we're not the only ones, right?
Well, there's a few other guys doing it.
And we figured we're not the only ones that remember this.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, right? Like even now, when I do a request show, I'll get all of a sudden random requests once in a while. I want to hear this song from 1983. I'm like, surprisingly, it's not in my digital library here of music. But
however, it might be on Real 80s CCM.
Yeah. If I remember, did you guys grow up together? Yep. And so have you always shared this love of 1980s CCM music with one another?
Okay, so Ray, talk about the first Res Band album.
Yeah, actually, it all started. We've been friends since we were 12 years old, I guess. 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, like back to the 70s,
And we grew up in a fairly small town, and we were just starting to hear in our small town. We were just starting to hear about the fact that there was Christian rock music, but we hadn't heard any yet. But we'd heard of. So I was on a trip to Brandon, which is a larger city, and I stopped at the Christian bookstore and picked up a Resurrection Band cassette tape in Rainbow's End. And that's where it started because no one had ever heard, in our town, no one had ever heard anything like that.
Special shout out to the Lighthouse Bookstore in Brandon. Is that the one?
Yeah.
And boy, the preachers got nervous then.
I bet, right? What was that like actually in the 80s when you started bringing that stuff? 'Cause, like Res Band, they can get pretty noisy, hey?
Yeah, well, it was by today's standards, you probably wouldn't call it metal, but it's hard rock.
Yeah. And Rainbow's End especially was a really hard rock album.
Yeah, and I still have that album. Yeah. Like honestly, if I'm going to pick something out of the collection, I mean, that's one I'd go back to.
Nice.
But,
yeah, we turned a few heads.
Yeah, and I remember, one youth group night, the pastor coming over and trying to adjust the volume down. It's like yeah, that's not a song we play here. But
yeah, we were lucky though. Scott's parents are very easygoing about that type of thing. They're not, they were accepting of anything that would, in their opinion, I think, be useful, would be good.
Yeah, like help build your faith up, kind of, instead of driving.
So they
away.
knew, and I didn't grow up in the church, so I didn't have any parent to step in either way, so it didn't matter. But yeah, we turned a few years that
But you know what, like, even globally, like, the whole thing, there's a lot of pushback, and you can tell by the content of the songs. Okay, so there's a song... You Can Still Rock and Roll, where this guy's singing about, it's okay to sing rock and roll, even though I'm a Christian. That's what the premise of the song is.
Yeah.
And that's, what's his name? I can look it up. But Larry Norman, why should they have
Oh yeah, all the good music. Yeah, yeah.
And
I do have that one here.
there's there's dozens of songs like this where they're saying, yeah, it's okay for me to sing like this.
Yeah.
And so I can tell the pushback is everywhere, right?
Yeah, I remember stories too. I can't remember. I think it was Striper maybe, but like bookstores actually selling them from under the desk, right? And they were hidden, and you kind of had to walk in and hush, hush, like, "Hey, do you have the Striper album?"
Yeah, there's one 77's album that was recalled, and the owner of the bookstore in Dauphin calls up. They told me to send these back, but I knew you were going to want this one.
That's awesome.
And that was the All Fall Down album.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that was a fantastic new wave album. That was that was brilliant.
That was breaking. That was it. It led to another whole wave in Christian music in the 80s.
I found I was a kid in the 80s, right? But I thought I knew 80s music, but being in this group, it's really opened my eyes. I basically knew Striper and Petra and White Cross, White Heart.
White Heart.
Yeah. And that was kind of it, right? But it wasn't just rock and heavy kind of stuff. There was all sorts of genres covered there, wasn't it?
That's one of the things we joke about when we started this. We figured there was about 500 albums.
Right.
Okay, as of today, we're at 1,500 albums uploaded.
Wow.
And I probably have 500 to go.
Wow.
We had no idea how big the industry was.
So even you guys who are big fans, you found, you're being expanded all the time to your knowledge. And
Yeah, we had no idea. And was that because we grew up in small town Manitoba? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe, but I had no idea the industry was this big.
Well, maybe that was always one of the struggles for the industry back in the day before internet, right? How do you get this great album from England to a kid in the parkland of Manitoba, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, and stuff like Australia, UK, at that time they didn't export records, right? Because you had the UK pressing of an album, you had the Japan pressing of an album, and you had the U.S. pressing and the Canadian pressing, and they were not actually the same record.
Huh.
And in some cases they could have different tracks, but in a lot of cases they just didn't distribute them. So an album released in Australia might never make it off the island.
Yeah,
crazy.
There's several we have. The one story I like to tell is the story of a band called Talking Drums. And Talking Drums were a band of Christians as opposed to a Christian band. And they were out of Europe, out of England. And I did some time as a commercial DJ. And I was playing them as a commercial DJ. I had no clue this was a band of Christians. I had no clue until we started this project. And I get this album, and I sit down to listen to it, and I'm going, I know this album. I played this album. And, that's another example is I found out there was a lot more bands of Christians than we knew about at the time. Mm-hmm. We knew about After the Fire, we knew a little bit, and maybe, a few others, but, U2 was considered, a band of Christians at the time. But I found out that was quite the market too, a much larger market than I thought it was. And, I thought maybe 4 or 5 bands, The Alarm, The Call, but no. There's probably 50 or 100 of them.
Sorry. So the group, like I said, when you guys started it, how many years ago did you start the Facebook group? Do you remember?
Facebook group?
Yeah.
No,
it was right
same
at the
time.
beginning too.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah. We're 5 years ago last month.
Yeah, so there's a couple dozen people now. There's 1,500 people, I think, in this group. And you, Scott, you said you had, a couple hundred albums or something like that? So you guys started with your own, and then, people have just been giving you stuff? Or?
Yeah, it's been a little bit like that. We thought we knew everything.
Yeah.
We thought we knew all the albums. So it's no, I have everything we want.
Yeah.
And it's
we had no clue.
Then as people joined the group and we started talking, there was even a couple people locally in Winnipeg that we connected with, and, shout out to Paul and to some other guys that gave us records and said, oh yeah, you can go through my collection and do the same thing, right? So they had stuff that we didn't have. They had some stuff that I don't know, it just was not my style. Put it that way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, it's
Right.
like I wasn't gonna buy that album, right? But now looking back at it, it's like no, we gotta complete the collection as much as we can, right? And there's even people from the U.S. like I should have done my homework. But, guy sends me CDs. Like, oh, here's my
nice.
latest CD.
Yeah.
You can have this one too.
Very cool.
So the musicians themselves are contributing these things in some cases, and you get some good material from Castles.
Oh, Rob Castles, yeah. Now, there's an example of a band we never heard of in Canada. It was released here, but it was never carried in our bookstore. And I had never heard of Rob basically until I not physically, but internet-wise met him. And he's just a great rock and roll artist, just a straight-up rock and roll guy.
Yeah.
And just a great album,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 albums. And again, we had no clue. No,
That's so cool.
we'd never heard of them. And yet we would have loved that if we'd had it in the 80s.
Yeah, Randy Weiss, that's the guy I was thinking of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Randy, we bought one of his records in the 80s by mail order through the back of Cornerstone magazine.
Randy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, and he's what do you call, evangelical Jew.
A Messianic Jew.
Messianic Jew, and he does Christian music. And he sent me some CDs and like newer stuff that we had never heard because we uploaded his first album.
Which nobody ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's going, this is great. My granddaughter can see me on YouTube now.
That's so cool. I always remember when I was a kid in like 1988, this guy named Rick Pichet, he's a Canadian. He came and he played at our church, right? And but then like just has disappeared right over the years. So you're finding people like that, right? Who had cool careers, but before the internet and stuff and widespread distribution, right? And kind of giving it new life. Have you found younger people stumbling upon this stuff? And
Yeah.
Yeah?
The comments on the YouTube channel will get a fair amount of comments that, I never knew this existed, or a lot of my mom and dad listened to this. I remember growing up with this. So we are getting, there is a youth element. If you look into the analytics of the YouTube channel, it's mainly people, mid-50s. But there is an element of youth involved. And
Nice.
I think, I don't know, how do I say this, that I think some of the Christian youth today might really like what they hear compared to their other options in the market, So
Very cool. For me, it gives just great memories of cruising in the station wagon with Dad and the Don Francisco or Res Band 8 tracks on, and it brings that all back. What's been maybe like your favorite discoveries or rediscoveries for you guys as you've been doing this? Do you have any that really stick out?
Yeah, I turned into this huge After the Fire fan, ATF, and knew very little about them in the 80s. We knew they were Christian-based. They were a band of Christians. But now I've been on a real kick on ATF lately. And just this week I got my paws, and I haven't even told you yet, I got my paws on the acetate original pressing of that album.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I just released 1980F on YouTube, and Rob Layton, owner of Alternative Records, got a hold of me yesterday and sent me a copy of
That's so cool.
Yeah, the acetate copy before CBS Records destroyed the mix.
Wow.
That's what happened with that album. CBS Records took over, and that was pretty well it for the band. The ATF was already a little disillusioned. They had been trying to break into the Christian music scene, but none of the record companies would. All the record companies said, "Bring us a ready-to-go album, and we'll finish it up," and they didn't have the money to do that. So anyways, they went into the secular market where they made in Europe, they made a little bit of a splash, and here they made a bit of a splash. But yeah, I don't know, something about After the Fire now. And then I found, we had one, Iva Twidell, who was one of the original drummers for ATF. We had one of his albums, and now I
remember him existing.
Yeah, and now I found 3 more by him again. No idea, none. We didn't know they existed, and So
That ATF, we had one ATF album, and I thought it was the only one. I didn't know they had more than one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it turns out it was like a best of ATF almost.
That's exactly it. That was they had broken up by that point before they had released anything in North America.
Yeah.
So then Epic Records came out with a greatest hits record, and tossed Der Kommissar on it.
That's right.
by
Because
the way-
they did the English version of Der Kommissar after Falco did the German version.
Yeah.
And they were both on the radio almost at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
And that song broke, but the band had already split at that point. But yeah, there was, I don't know, 4 or 5 albums before that, and luckily a couple since. And yeah, so that's been my kick lately is After the Fire, because it's got tentacles. You got Iva Twiddell and Piercy, and so it's a band that had tentacles.
Yeah.
Their second drummer after Iva was the drummer from the Elwyn Wall band, and now I'm getting into some off technical stuff here, but yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's the one I got off on lately and got me going all over the place.
What about you, Scott?
I don't know. Like one of my favorite discoveries is that 100% Proof.
Oh yeah,
That was from a while ago that we stumbled on that. It's an Australian band, sounds like AC/DC.
Oh yeah, I remember you posting that. Yeah.
And it's so cool. Not a very good recording. And it's just so raw. It's just like it's kind of what you want it to be for that style of rock.
Yeah. Right.
It's another prime example of something we would have killed to have had in the 80s.
Oh
Would
yeah.
have loved to have had that, but
Yeah.
it
but
just
it's
didn't get released here.
Yeah. So I mean there's all kinds of stuff but that ATF stuff and some of that live stuff that you found, like that it's just wacky and in a cool way, right?
Yeah.
And it's that again, like was there enough Devo and other stuff, styled stuff for us at the time? We could have had more. People were out there doing different things. And we just didn't get to hear it.
Yep.
I think I need to get these MP3 files from you guys. We'll put some of this stuff in the system here. We'll post the videos in the story on our app and website too. Tell us this though. How does this work? Couple of Christian guys with Christian music stealing their music and posting it to YouTube. It's not quite like that, is it? It actually benefits the bands as well. Tell us how that works with the copyrights and stuff.
Well, I'll go through the legal angle. Before we started this, I actually managed. I had a YouTube channel, fairly large one, and I managed some really large ones. So I knew where we were headed was cloudy waters. But essentially, if a band wants their music registered on YouTube so that they earn money, they can go to the record company, or depending on their ownership rules, they can do that. So when you see advertising on our channel, the band is getting the money. We don't get a dime.
That's pretty cool.
We don't make any money at all. And with the exception of we do get donations to help out with album costs.
Okay.
Well, off YouTube, we make nothing. And so if you ever see an ad while watching one of our videos, that means the band got, 0.01 cents. Depending. But so the bands can claim the music and anybody can upload it and the bands can just claim it. Some bands control. They won't let you upload it. Robin Lane, for example, Robin Lane and the Chartbusters. We had some of her music up and she got a hold of me and said that she's going to control all her own music now. So we took ours down and because she's going to put it all up. Actually, I haven't talked to her in a while. She didn't end up putting everything up. So I think it's time for me to email her back and ask her what she's doing. And I want to put up one of her music videos, which is something we didn't talk about. To celebrate our 5th anniversary, we started up actually a second channel that has CCM music videos, of which there were a few in the late 80s, and there was no sort of good place on YouTube to go find them. So we're bit by bit, I'm taking them. We're sort of remastering them using some fancy software and making them look a little better again and redoing the audio completely.
Cool.
And putting all these old music videos back up. And so that's another angle of what we're doing.
I love it. How many videos have you guys put up all together then? Do you know?
15,000.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Yeah.
1,500 albums, 15,000 videos.
Wow.
One of the cool things that Ray kind of alluded to there, the connection with the artists.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's brilliant, right?
Yeah, like you're talking to them.
So Robin Lane is, maybe not a household name everywhere, but I mean, she was one of the first people on
Much Music.
Really?
On MTV.
On MTV.
Yeah,
She was one of the first
the-
videos.
I
Wow.
don't want to be quoted. I think it was the 6th video ever.
Yeah.
on
Really?
MTV was
So
Robin
these people
Lane.
are contacting us. They're finding us. And so like Rob
That's so
Castles,
cool.
Jerry Baird, we had a
Jerry
conversation
Jerry
with.
Baird of Vancouver.
Daryl Mansfield, you did have
Daryl,
a
I
conversation.
talked to Daryl quite a bit.
And these people, it's just cool knowing that they're out there appreciating what we're doing. And so they're not mad about, hey, why'd you put my video up in
Yeah.
most cases, but they want to be remembered.
Yeah,
and
right?
even
That's well said.
talking with the Keep, the Winnipeg-based rock band that we had for a while in the 80s. They put out one album on Toonsmith,
Yeah.
and we also have a demo cassette that they did. We put the stuff up there, and the guitar player is going, "Hey, that's awesome!"
That's so cool.
Um,
Giving them new life, right? And
and
letting their work
and the
continue.
drummer as well, and these guys are going, "Oh, that's really great that you put that up there."
Yeah, we do really strive to find, well, especially the oddball Canadian stuff. We really concentrate on that. But I think we've worked our way through that entirely now.
What if somebody's listening and they're like, "Oh, I have something you guys need to hear and get online"? How can they get a hold of you? Through the YouTube channel or the Facebook group? Or
Yeah, there's also a website, real80ccm.com.
oh, nice! I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really mostly indexing of the stuff. So if you want to search for a particular song or video, I mean, obviously you can search it on YouTube, but we've got it all on the listed on the website as well. But even just posting in the Facebook group, join the Facebook group and say, hey.
Yeah, message us. It happens every day.
Yeah, I mentioned the Facebook group, like, oh, you got 1,500 people, but YouTube, I just looked, yeah, you got 18,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, yeah, very cool. It's always the highlight of my day when new videos pop up on my Facebook feed, though, and you guys have opened up and expanded my knowledge of Christian music, and yeah, I want to bring some of this stuff back. Maybe next year we can do a big reunion festival with some of these bands or something, hey?
That'd be pretty awesome.
That
Wouldn't
would be
it?
awesome.
Yeah. So tell us one more time how people can find you guys online and on YouTube and stuff then.
Website is real80ccm.com. YouTube, or Real80ccm and Real80ccm TV for our video channel. And Facebook, just look for Real80ccm. We cornered that phrase. So
Very
just look
cool.
that phrase up and you'll find us.
One final question. What qualifies as real 80 CCM then? Is like Petra like, no, they're too mainstream, or what's your definition?
I listened to a lot of Petra back in the day.
Yeah.
Petra and Servant, and those were some go-tos. But
We don't get hung up on stuff like that. Like, you'll notice there's some dissension amongst people whether we should be putting up bands of Christians versus Christian bands. And
Yeah.
we really avoid.
yeah.
We just avoid that.
Yeah.
We just if
And
we
if
find
it was
that-
1979, it's still okay.
oh yeah. Well, that was the other thing. Is in the '80s we listened to a lot of '70s stuff.
Yeah.
So that gets carried into the '80s, and then we go into the early '90s, but generally with bands that we were listening to in the '80s.
Very cool.
So
I love it.
It's kind of blurry, but I mean,
Hey, did you guys have a podcast? Is that still going, or did it go on hiatus kind of thing?
we did
Started
a couple
in-
episodes.
we did a couple.
Yeah. That's what I just thought of that all of a sudden.
yeah, there's a few problems with that nowadays. With I live on the other side of the earth.
Yeah.
So I live in Asia, so it's a little hard for us to get together and do with them, but we should be doing them.
Yeah, and they're fun to do because basically, Ray and I would just pick a topic and talk about what we remember and what we can find out about some stuff.
Well, it's I don't know. It's amazing. People are going to love this. I know you'll be able to see some of the videos they put up on the story in the app and on our website. And yeah, make sure to give their website a look and check out their YouTube channel and subscribe there as well. Scott and Ray, thank you guys very much for
Thanks for having
coming in
us.
and talking about this.
That was fun.